Well, I watched a video recently where a gardener was recommending that you should stress your plants in order to encourage root health. And that goes contrary to what the world record holder says of the man who grew the biggest tomato plant in the world. He said that the secret was to make sure that there was no stress on the plant from seed to harvest. So I've found in my experience that that is really true, and I get great results. If you want to have a truly bountiful harvest, you don't want to stress your plants. These are brand new tomato plants, and we haven't picked a single tomato yet. This one has 4 clusters and a 5th set of flowers on the top. It's almost 4 feet tall now, and that's a brand new young plant. We're still in June, and we're going to be picking tomatoes until November. No stress is the key to their success. I just do a little pollinating while I'm talking. To pollinate the tomatoes, you just gently tap the branches like that. You want to do this in the morning to ensure better pollination. In the heat of the day, they can't really pollinate. And we're having a hot and calm day today. It's not a lot of wind. So I'm going to do a little extra pollinating to make sure that some of these flowers can set. So that's one thing you want to do. And if you watch my other videos, I go into a lot of detail about pruning. You want to prune your tomatoes for maximum health, especially get rid of those branches down near the dirt and overlapping branches, competing branches that get tangled up. Any downward facing branches, those are the ones that are the most susceptible to disease. Hi, sweetheart. This is my little Lolly. Just turned 2. Yeah! And then get your suckers. Here's a sucker coming in. I'm going to have to come back with my clippers and cut that one out. That's a nice leading vine going up. And I've already got 2 other vines on this plant. I don't want there to be more than 3 vines. That would start to become trouble later. And that's what you want to think about too, is that the plants are here for the season. They're going to produce a lot of tomatoes. And from the very beginning, I'm training them up the strings, making sure that the weight of the branches are carried. Some of these branches would already be broken if I hadn't done that. This one, for example, I put this one on a 2nd string, and if I hadn't done that, this one would have already collapsed under its own weight and now be trailing on the ground. Tomatoes are a vine, so they don't necessarily break. They're pretty flexible to a point, and they are definitely gonna try to continue on vining. So I've had tomatoes that I swore the whole branch just broke under its own weight, but the thing just kept on growing because it hadn't actually broken, but just kind of bent severely. So the other 2 key ingredients, really what you need besides reducing the physical stress on your plants: water and food. And likewise, I see some recommendations saying, oh, just top dress your tomatoes once or twice in a season, or just rely on the nutrients that are in the soil. But to get real vigorous growth and to get real meaningful production, I mean, we produce a lot of tomatoes. We get hundreds and hundreds of tomatoes. And to get this kind of success, you need to feed your plants. So I'm watering them every day, a gallon at least. They're getting about 2 gallons now already. 15 plants are sharing 33 gallons. And in the height of the summer, I might be watering them in the afternoon as well, especially the big plants. These smart pots dry out really quickly. So if you're using If you're using containers or a bed, it's a little less water too. But in these cloth containers, they really dry out very, very quickly. So you really have to keep on the water. And you can judge that by the plants. If your plants are wilting in the afternoon, then you need to be watering them more in the morning. And if you're watering them fully in the morning and they're still wilting in the afternoon, that must mean you live somewhere real hot and sunny and dry like we do, and you may need to water twice in the day, or just water them more. And, you know, some people who grow in plastic pots or who grow straight into the ground will disagree with that, and rightly so, because their situation may not demand enough water, as much water. So you want to check your plants and see what they really need. Likewise with food, you want to make sure that you're giving the plants enough nutrients, and you can look for little signs of lack of nutrients, like changing color of the leaves is one. Problems with the fruit is another. Let's go look at some other plants, and I could give you some examples of that. Actually, the best ones I could show you with is a cannabis plant. It's light green and starting to show some micronutrient deficiencies in the leaves by the color of the leaves. So it's time for feeding. I gave them a little fertilizer today, but they're eating up a lot in this stage of growth, and I should have fed them a few days ago. When it comes to the tomatoes and the peppers, you want to look at the base of the fruit. Look for your blossom end rot. If you see any discoloration or softness here, that's a calcium deficiency. So you can detect, you know, the peppers have nice dark leaves, and the fruit has been setting really well, and the fruit's growing really well. So I know that they're getting plenty of nutrients. And I've noticed a difference since I improved the water system with this ring system rather than the straight drippers. They're doing a lot better, and I'm going to be using that in all of my pots from now on. So when it comes to the nutrients, what I do is I use liquid fertilizers, and I put them in my big 32-gallon container here. I fill this up with water, and I add my liquid nutrients. I check the EC with my little EC meter, and feed the plants that way. I've been feeding them once a week up till now, and now we're going to go into more intensive twice a week, and you can see the results. Here's a nice cabbage coming in. It's starting to round up like a cabbage. These cauliflower are massive. Really big leaves. Those broccoli over there are almost 2 feet tall. Really big broccoli plants. Just starting to produce. I'm getting a few bugs. That's probably earwigs. And so we've got a lot around here. Like everywhere else, I suppose. So food, water, and take care of them physically with supports, with stakes, with pruning, pollination. Keep your plants real happy. Cut away the dead stuff. I didn't notice that. That's leaf miners. That's an insect eating that. So we need to cut away that leaf so that those don't spread to other leaves. And get rid of all of your dead growth like that, and cut away any disease growth by the bottom too. I've trimmed away already a couple of leaves that were yellowed and dying around the bottom of the zucchini plants, and you really want to stay on top of that, kind of like this right here. When you see those dead leaves on the bottom, get those out of there, because that's just going to spread fungus and bacteria to the rest of the plant. Potentially, not always. And sometimes you don't know what it is, and so better safe than sorry. It's okay to remove a few leaves from most plants. Of course, you need to know your plant too. Before you start pruning your tomatoes, you better know what kind of tomatoes you have. These are indeterminate vining tomatoes, which means they're just going to keep vining and vining and vining and producing more fruit throughout the summer. So I can prune them however I want. But if you've got a determinate kind of bush tomato, you want to let that just grow in and produce all of its fruit. So if you really want something that vines, get some cherry tomatoes. Those are a lot of fun. And the last part is the beneficial plants. So that's why you notice the marigolds and geraniums and hyssopes all over the garden, because those are beneficial plants. They reduce the insects. Some beneficials attract insects to them so they don't go to your other plants. And some keep the bugs away because they don't like the smell. So that's another thing to check out, is companion planting, because we've got everything in separate containers here, but you can also plant things together. So you can put the marigolds with the tomatoes, you can put basil with the tomatoes. There's different companions you could do. You can do the traditional Native American of corn, peas, and squash. There's corn, beans, and squash, rather. Variety of ways you can do it. You can also do rotation. We're doing rotation with peas and with alfalfa. So we planted some peas early in the spring, and we picked all those out already. And that adds some nitrogen to these pots here. They'll have some zucchini going in them. And after the vegetables are done, we're going to be putting in some alfalfa. Hi, Lolly. Hey, sweetheart. Yeah. So that's the garden report from Northern California. Please subscribe and write some comments. Let me know what you think. Happy gardening. Here I come.